All right, guys, we're ready for our Four Seasons sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh no, we'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh no, wait, a family hub.
Yeah!
No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to receive your free, no-obligation brochure from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
More reasons for Four Seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-928-7007. That's 800-928-7007. Call 800-928-7007 today.
Wake up, America. I think I got something to say to you. I love the United States of America, and I want you to love the United States of America too. Wake Up America Radio with Dr. A and Lou Bell is not a safe space, so enter at your own risk. You will be exposed to the truth, and we will endure the consequences. Now, rest assured, Dr. A will not try to put his brain into your head. I will, however, motivate you to think and to use the analytical part of your brain that very few people want to use because it requires actual effort and actual work. Hey, welcome everybody to Wake Up America Radio. And before we get started, Lou, I want to tell you a couple things here. One, I was interviewed a couple days ago on the new Rising Star at K98 Talk. The show is called Jessie POV. And I was interviewed for her K98 Talk Memorial Day 15-hour special. It was kind of fun, but I got to tell you, she immediately tried to control me. I told her many women have tried to control me over the years. None have been successful. Now, you might say you've been successful, and Tina Dillingham and Slickery Trigger might back you up on that. But can you imagine the nerve of her? I've never even met the woman. She tried to control me. Well, it didn't work.
Oh, I'm sure it didn't, because I don't do it on a regular basis at all.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, before we get started, Lou, I have a short story to tell you. Maybe this will make you laugh. I don't know, hopefully. I picked up my friend Jessie for a golf game last Saturday morning at 5:45 in the morning. Oh, my gosh, it's early. At the door, standing in his socks, he invited me in for a quick cup of coffee, telling me that he wasn't quite ready to go. Now, as I drank a few sips of my Colombian brew, I watched in amazement, Lou, as his lovely wife finished up waxing and buffing his golf shoes. Here's my sincere question for you, wench. Where can I find a woman like that, like Jessie's girl? I guess I can't. I couldn't believe it. Would you buff a guy's golf shoes before he goes to play in the morning? I don't think so.
Only if I found it fun. Only if it was something that I enjoyed, or it depends. Everything is a give and take. So it's like, what does he do for her? Does he wax and buff her car? Then maybe I don't know, but the golf shoes were hideous looking. But I guess she made them look better. I don't know. My colleagues at K98 and WNJC and all the people on Twitter, they kind of go a little ballistic when they talk about the Donald Trump. And folks, Lou and I were offline talking about certain things. When you analyze something, it really depends on the perspective from which you conduct that analysis. And I was telling her that in the famous movie Smokey and the Bandit, Burt Reynolds playing the character of the bandit was telling Sally Field, it depends on what part of the country that you're standing in as to just how dumb you really are. In other words, people up there in the Northeast, so-called intellectuals,
think everybody that lives down in the South, which I now am a member of the South, are stupid. And if we talk with a Southern accent, we lose 50 IQ points immediately. Well, we know that's not true, Lou, right? And you talk with that little bit of a Georgia, North Carolina, is it North or South? So North Carolina twang, and people just love you.
My accent is a Georgia accent.
Well, people just love you, and I get no respect whatsoever when I'm around you. But that's okay.
Well, not everybody loves me.
Oh, that's true. You got. I
attract a lot more sweethearts than psychos, though. Thankfully.
Well, I've been watching Twitter and seeing what's happening there, but
I've never had anybody try to get me hacked until last week. That's for sure. I mean, I've had hackers threaten to hack me for doing stories. I know, for doing stories on GhostSec, but just for, for purposes of stalking me to try to get anonymous to hack me. I've never had that happen before, and thank God for GhostSec, who said, "No, she's a good person. Don't hack her." Yeah. Well,
I remember when 3 or 4 of those parody accounts sprung up on Dr. Arrington, Dr. A, you and Miss Stacy told me that was a good thing because obviously I'm doing a good job. I'm scaring somebody with the truth, and so
right.
I look at that from that perspective. But keeping in line with what we're discussing about when you analyze something, it depends on the perspective from which you conduct your analysis. I want to give the listeners. This is called the Trump phenomenon, a grassroots analysis. And, of course, analyze the Trump phenomenon from 2 perspectives. From the GOP elitist perspective, the grassroots members, Lou, of the electorate are stupid, ignorant people who are easily swayed by temporary emotions, the fad of the moment, if you will, that they know will fade as quickly as they materialized. They believe that the people need them. In other words, they say they need us to keep them from harming themselves with those poor, misguided decisions. Now, that's an analysis of the Trump phenomenon from the elitist perspective. From the grassroots level, what I hear is we have been betrayed. That's a tough word there to use. I use it all the time with regard to Mrs. Clinton and the Islamo-communists in the White House. But they say we have been betrayed by the GOP elites once too often. We are going to rein in their power that rightfully belongs to we the people, not the so-called political elite class. So here's what I was sent sort of anonymously in the mail the other day. Which is, I think, is really great. Now, listen to this closely, people. This comes from a grassroots member of the electorate. We don't care if the guy swears, or how many times he's been married, or who he voted for, or what his income tax returns show. We want the problems fixed. Yes, he's an egomaniac, but we don't care. We know he's not a racist or bad to women, or all of those other things the liberal media is trying to label him with. We know he's raised a good family, and that says an awful lot about him. The country is in a mess because politicians suck. The Republican Party is two-faced and gutless. Illegal aliens are everywhere. And Muslims are openly, brazenly trying to hurt this nation and make the civilized world adjust to them. We want it all fixed. We don't care that Trump is crude. We don't care that he insults people. We don't care that he has changed positions over the years. We don't care that he fights with Megyn Kelly, Rosie O'Donnell, and so many of the elected establishment. We don't care that Rubio, Cruz, Ryan, the Bushes, and so many other top old and new Republicans refuse to endorse him for their own selfish reasons, and we know what those reasons are. We don't care that he doesn't know the name of some Muslim terrorist. We don't care that he tried some businesses that didn't seem to work out. The country is weak, bankrupt, and our enemies are making fun of us. We are being invaded. by illegal aliens. We are becoming a nation of victims where every Tom, Ricardo, and Hasid is a special group with special rights to a point where we don't even recognize the country we were born and raised in. We just want it fixed. And Trump is the only guy who seems to understand what the people want. We are sick of politicians, sick of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. We are angry about the Iran nuke deal, the budget, treatment of Israel, military weakness, lobbyists, special interests, overpaid politicians with self-serving bills and backroom deals. We are angry about trade deals, loss of jobs, manipulated economic figures and unemployment numbers, businesses fleeing this country for foreign nations, and the phony pay-to-play Clinton Foundation. Americans are no longer going to be fooled, and the movement is out to change the direction this nation has taken. Trump may not be a saint, but he doesn't have lobbyist money holding him in check. He doesn't have political correctness restraining him. We know he's been very successful, a good negotiator. He has built a lot of things. He is flexible. He's not a politician. He says he will fix it. And we believe him because he's too much of an egoist to be proven wrong or looked at and called a liar. Public service has become nothing more than elected greed. This may be our only chance to have a non-politician, despite his flaws, try and correct this mess, at least for the next 4 years. We must take a shot because the consequences of putting Hillary Clinton into the White House are frightening. There is a political tidal wave happening, and it's going to overcome much of what has occurred to this country. Just look what Mr. Obama did last week, demanding that schools allow either gender into the bathrooms and locker rooms or face financial punishment. Democrats are taking us down a very slippery slope to destruction. We stand on the precipice of collapse, and we are traveling awfully fast. What do you think of that letter, Lou?
Bold, truthful, honest. Well said.
And well said from sort of a simplistic perspective. You know,
layman's terms. I wouldn't call it necessarily simplistic, but it's concise and it's definitely put in layman's terms.
Yeah, I got a PhD in political science. I write lots of stuff, and sometimes I have to use big PhD words and phrases and research projects and results and all that stuff. But I've been convinced over the years, even if you have a PhD, when you write or say something, if you can say it, like you said, concise and simpler, how's that? Simpler terminology, people that don't have a PhD or a master's degree from Cornell can understand the message you're trying to get across, and that is extremely powerful, Lou.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's kind of where I was going with that.
The more intelligent you are, the more concisely and simplistically you can speak. If not, you're not as intelligent as you think you are.
Exactly, and if you think you're intelligent as you think you are, you better think again.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, I guess we can get into sort of the meat here of what we're going to talk about. I want to talk about our university system and what has been occurring there and what that has in store for the future of America. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the surging left. Now, folks, when I say the left or progressive or Democrat or Democrat socialist, think communist, because that's what it is. It's just a different term for communism, okay? Lou, over the past 100 years or so, our university system has slowly evolved away from being an honored venue of higher learning and encouragement of a rational, analytical thought process, like it should be, into being nothing more than a methodical, diabolical, communist brainwashing machine. You notice I use the term brainwash there just for you. You know the term I like to use there, mind rape, but I use the brainwash there. Now, on campus, our university students are bombarded daily with bitter, upside-down concept of social justice, whatever that means, a warped sense of entitlement, and an overreaching notion or overarching notion of so-called political correctness. And we know what political correctness is. I remember last time I taught at UCLA, we were talking about, this was 2008, before we had Obamacare and nationalization of our medical industry. I told them, I said, it's coming. I'm going to tell you right now, it's coming. It'll eventually, well, it might take 5 or 10 years, but eventually we're going to get it. And where does it stop, class? Where does your entitlement mentality come from, and where does it stop? Will you one day say to me, Dr. A, where's my free BMW or my 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath home in the suburbs? That's the way our kids are being taught these days. Now, when all of these, should I put this, socially engineered concepts are, again, fundamental principles contained within cultural Marxism. And we just did a whole series on cultural Marxism. Again, this movement was first created by Vladimir Lenin. Why? Because he truly believed in the political philosophy of Karl Marx, who taught that the entire world would eventually transition to full-blown communism. In his mind, it was and is inevitable. To reiterate, cultural Marxism is defined as the destructive criticism and undermining of all institutions of Western civilization and the traditional values and principles upon which it is built. To quickly achieve the goal of world domination, Lenin argued that the communists would have to infiltrate, invade, and corrupt the traditional family, schools, our churches, entertainment, the media, civic organizations, science, literature, and actually rewrite human history, Lou. You remember we talked about this the last 4 episodes, correct?
Yes.
Now, in Lenin's plan, everything about Western civilization was to be endlessly attacked, mocked, and ridiculed, and the ultimate blame for every dilemma confronting mankind was to be assigned to the failings of Western culture and capitalism. In American society today, cultural Marxism is indeed the undergirding foundation that propels political correctness, social justice, and the entitlement mentality. I witnessed this firsthand as a political science professor at UCLA, my alma mater, undergraduate alma mater, during classroom discussions, campus protests, faculty lounge conversations, and even in the grading process, Lou.
In the grading process?
Yes,
grading process. You don't say.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to take a break, we'll get into that.
Let's do that. Let's take a break because I might have to wrap my head around that one. I might need a little break before we get into that because I'm sure that certainly never happened to me. We'll be right back.
I looked all over, so how can it be? Here comes the wrecking ball, swinging at me.
K98 Talk is continuing to expand its lineup. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org.
They know I mean well in spite of this hell if they
All right, we're back. Did you want me to talk about my professor that I told you about during the break?
Well, folks, she was telling me offline that she, at Meredith, they didn't have a foreign policy class, so she had to go to NC State to take a class over there, and that she displayed some of her conservative-leaning tendencies, and the professor gave her
I challenged him.
A D minus, right?
No, he gave me a B,
no.
but I should have had an A in that class, and I know that the B, I lost a letter grade because I disagreed with him. But he was so left that it annoyed me, and I'll admit that by the end of the semester, I was probably heckled him in class more than I should have, and I ended up with a B in the class. So, but I'll lose a letter grade for my principals any day of the week.
I loved being challenged in the classroom by my students. I encouraged it. I actually fomented it. I brought it out of them. I wanted them to challenge me so we could have a great discussion.
He did not.
Yeah, I did. Now, we're talking about grading. For instance, UCLA, Tulane, wherever I taught, I always graded research papers based on content, theme, progression, continuity, proper grammar, and writing style. To me, as a professor of political science, it didn't really matter which side of the political continuum my students adopted in their writing, so long as they presented sound arguments from their individual perspective, Lou. We talked about that earlier, perspective. And as their professor, I never allowed my students to know where my personal sentiments lay along that liberal, conservative, political spectrum. It was not important that they knew. Now, over the years, I received a few personal threats from disgruntled entitlement mentality students if I didn't give them a higher grade. A lot of people in graduate school think you pay your fee to get your B. Well, that didn't work with Dr. A. I likewise received a few horrible professor reviews that are on. You can see them; they're online right now. I don't go look at them because they really make me upset, and they were written by those same disgruntled students. I think I told you this once, Lou. I was walking across the campus at UCLA, and the department chair, Mike Lofty, at the time, Dr. Lofty was the department chair. He saw me, and he flagged me down, and he said, "Dr. Arrington, you seem to have kind of a bad look on your face, a sad look on your face. What's the problem, sir?" I said, "Well, Mike, I just read some professor evaluations about me, and 99% were great. The best professor I've ever had. I'm switching to political science because of Dr. A. But 4 or 5 of them were just disgustingly ugly." And he laughed. He laughed at me. He said, "Randy, don't read those. Those are from those students who felt they deserved a better grade, and they're going to try to hurt you to get some measure of reprieve. That's all those are." So you know what? I never read reviews anymore, and he was so right. Here's the thing on this. I never changed a grade, ever, as a result of a personal threat or a bad review. This demeanor came to me as a landing signal officer in the Navy. Every time a naval aviator lands his airplane on an aircraft carrier, an LSO, and I was an LSO, landing signal officer, would stand there at the end of the ship at the LSO platform and wave him back aboard, control him back aboard, make sure he doesn't kill himself, hit the ramp or hit whatever. And each pass, each landing is graded by that landing signal officer. Then we debrief them afterwards down in their ready room. The rule was grades never changed once you left the platform. So you could go down to a ready room, talk to a pilot, and he disagrees with you and wants you to change the grade because it's very competitive, naval aviators, and no grade ever changed. When I became a professor, I was the same way. And as you know, I always taught my university students the truth. The truth, Lou, no matter how rude or out of touch it was perceived to be by them, due to the inculcation of cultural Marxism that they had received from other so-called scholars in the university system. Today, Lou, you know this, most professors are mega liberal and want to indoctrinate their students into accepting cultural Marxism and a communist utopian view of ordering society. Again, they literally want to put their brain into the heads of their students and create these little communist robots, mind-raped communist robots. I, on the other hand, offered my students the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then I encouraged them to think analytically, rationally, for themselves in order to discover if I was actually telling them the truth. I remember a few times I would stand up in class just to pull people out of their shell, and we'd be talking about Abraham Lincoln and him mining the southern ports. And I'd say, Abraham Lincoln, the fourth president of the United States, and then I'd pause to see if anybody had the guts to challenge me on that. Of course, Madison was the fourth president. Lincoln was the 16th. And it took about, half the quarter at UCLA, with 12-week quarter, so 5-6 weeks, for them to realize what I was doing and realize it was okay to come at me and challenge me. And again, I did that on purpose because I wanted to bring them out of their shell and straighten me out and have a great discussion. It was really a good way to teach as far as I'm concerned. Motivating our college students, Lou, to think analytically using that rational thought process is and should be a core fundamental of higher learning. It is not a core fundamental of Common Core, which is why we need to get rid of that. We desperately need to return, Lou, to this basic philosophical foundation in our universities before it's too late and our nation is indeed destroyed by communist transformation, like Mr. Obama told us he was going to do. He said we're just 3 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. The United States doesn't need transforming. Well, now it does. We need to transform back to the founding fathers, the founding documents, and those core values and principles. That's what we need to get back to. Those of you that know the Bible, Jesus Christ himself warned his followers that they would be persecuted for their belief in him. As such, they would have to fight to preserve their Christian faith because it would be under constant assault and in jeopardy of fading away or being forcibly taken from them. Lou, is that true today?
Yeah, I think we're always in danger from election to election of having things forcibly taken from us. Our health care, our freedom to choose our own health care was forcibly taken from us. The freedom of an employer to provide the health care that they see fit for their employees was forcibly taken from us because of the last two elections.
Is Christianity under assault?
Everything is under assault. Everything is constant. Every freedom is constantly under assault because freedom is threatening to those in power.
It is. Freedom should not be threatening. Freedom should be enlightening. And that's what we need to understand.
It is to the people, but it's not to those in power.
Yeah, exactly. Similarly to what we were just talking about, Christians being warned by Christ himself that they'd be under persecution. The founding fathers themselves warned patriotic citizens that their individual liberty and the longevity of this newly created democratic constitutional republic could indeed be fleeting entities. Both of these would be under constant assault by tyrants whose ambition would be to steal personal freedom. That's what you just said, Lou. Destroy the American political system and, in fact, enslave human beings, enslave Americans. It's happening right now. We talked about that a couple shows ago. People are slaves, and they don't even realize it. They think they're free, but they're not. Remember, our democratic form of government is always just one generation away from extinction. Ronald Reagan taught us that. And this is precisely why patriotic, conservative American citizens must be vigilant and constantly struggle to preserve our beloved nation and our sacred individual liberty. Lou, communism always fails. Let me say that again, folks. Listen to Dr. A. Communism always fails. Venezuela is getting ready to collapse probably within the next month. Communism always fails and eviscerates the lives of everyone along the path to its own inevitable collapse. But good men and women still must boldly stand, face, and aggressively defeat this communist enemy. As true American patriots, we must prevent the all-consuming misery that infiltrates the nation during a temporary communist dictatorship. Remember, in America, it is not only our right to question authority, Lou, and the government actions. It is our duty to do so. We actively monitor and query our own government to protect our cherished freedom and to ensure the continued peaceful longevity of our democratic constitutional republic. I truly believe that America is, like I've said before many times on this show, America is God's shining city set upon a hill for all to see. I truly believe, Lou, we are the last best hope for all mankind. What do you think of that?
I think we have been for a long time.
Well, unless we get more good men and women to stand up and
if you don't believe that, then you definitely don't know history, because if it were not for us, World War II certainly would have turned out differently. So we have been for decades. Only right now we're not doing a very good job of it.
Well, we're not, and we need to rally, and not everybody can be an activist. If you have everybody in your nation that is an activist in a political sense, you're politically unstable. You can't have that. You have to have people that can put their heads away from what's going on in politics and go out and do their jobs, work, raise their families, be good citizens in their community. You can't have everybody be members of Black Lives Matter. You just can't, and you'd end up being politically unstable, and the country would just be ripe for revolution and gone. That's what they want to do. We've discussed that.
Yeah,
that's what they want to do.
And it's so much more than that. You know, it's almost like a pyramid. The foundation of it is what we've been talking about. It's cultural Marxism. So, you know, and it leads to that idea that we're a country of activists. Well, you know, there's a lot of grassroots activists that espouse liberty and a free enterprise, and that's a completely different thing. So you can be an activist and have a job.
Exactly. What you just said made me think of this. Back in 1961, Ayn Rand, we know her.
Yes.
Published a nonfiction book, was called The New Intellectual. And in this piece, she warned Americans and North Carolinians that our nation was teetering on the precipice of moral, intellectual, and philosophical bankruptcy, and that our free society had only two choices left. Here's the two choices she said we had. Americans can evade the reality of their situation and act on a fanatic, blind, range-of-the-moment expediency, not daring to look ahead, wishing no one would name the truth, yet desperately hoping that something will save them somehow. Or they can identify the situation, properly identify the situation, check their premises, discover their hidden assets, and start the rebuilding process. You know what? At present, Lou, America is following the first course of action as our intellectual leadership has collapsed under the pressing weight of a culture that has been mind-raped into following the immoral philosophy of the Democratic Party. Think communists, people, or as I often have referred to the Democratic Party, Anger Incorporated. The lefties do not approach social problems from a pragmatic viewpoint or perspective, Lou, searching for ways to improve the situation at hand, except as a political expedient for their own purposes, their own power, Machiavellian means to their greater end. Now, to get a better understanding of what this philosophy looks like, we were given a great definition by none other than Hillary, Mrs. Clinton. Speaking at the University of Texas at Austin, this was back in 1993. Is it 93 or 94? I think it was 93. Mrs. Clinton defined the basic goal of the Democratic Party in one sentence, Lou. Here's what she said. Let us be willing to remold society by redefining what it means to be a human being in the 21st century. Are you kidding me? That's Stalinist social reengineering in that one sentence, and she is a communist, Lou. Comment on that.
I don't know. There's much to add to that.
Well, and that political philosophy, again, sounds identical to Joseph Stalin's human reengineering plan. That we discussed that during our broadcast on the new communist
she knew.
man.
I mean, I don't think that. I don't think for a minute that Ayn Rand wrote anything that wasn't based in a knowledge of what was going on and what was coming. I think that, if there was a John Locke of our day, it was her. She did it from a point of writing fiction, but I also think that she was very much a philosopher.
Exactly, and if you haven't read her, you need to read several things she's written. She's
Atlas Shrugged is probably start there.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? Any given situation, Lou, any situation. Need not be improved if the human being can be remade, recast, re-engineered to believe that their own individual influence can do nothing to improve their dilemma. They're just stuck with what they got. And that's what the cultural Marxists, the lefties, are trying to do. This is precisely what Mrs. Clinton meant by redefined and remolded. And the contemporary Democratic Party follows this political and philosophical prescription in lockstep, wench. Are we getting close to a time for a break, or what do you want to do?
You've actually got a few more minutes before we need to take a break.
You heard the name David Horowitz. David Horowitz is a former leader of the New Left. But guess what? He has now turned into being a fierce proponent of conservatism. He explains to us, teaches us that the Democratic political party, again, think communists, feeds off the entitlements of the welfare state, social workers, university so-called intellectuals, trial lawyers, bureaucrats, government unions. They are all clients, if you will, of the big government programs that the Democratic Party promotes on a daily basis. The more an individual is given these so-called entitlements, the longer the individual is kept dependent upon the program in which the Democratic Party promotes. Lou, today in the United States, 25% of Americans are dependent on some form of welfare, while the American workforce has become basically demoralized as 95 million people in the Obama 7.5 years he's been president, 95 million people are no longer working and have given up searching for a job, which allows them to say the unemployment rate is 5%. That's a bunch of crap, people. The unemployment rate is more like 20 to 21%. The percent of Americans today, Lou, in the workforce is now a staggeringly low 62.8%. That is 7 million less people in the American workforce than when Mr. Obama, the Islamic communist in the White House, started occupying the White House in January of 2009. You notice I use the word occupying. How about those shovel-ready jobs and that economic recovery that was supposed to happen 6 summers ago? People, listen to me. It's all a blatant lie. And yet stupid Americans believe the crap that spews out of his mouth and is read off his teleprompter. Yet to even highlight the fact that the Democratic Party policies are disastrous for our nation's workforce is to be demonized as an enemy of progress, as an enemy of social justice, as an enemy of minority rights. Lou, communism is alive and well in the United States of America, and a cultural Marxist blueprint provides the ordinance for the Democrats' political attacks using political correctness as their primary weapon against society. The validity of experience itself, Lou, teaches us that the agenda behind their philosophy is indeed communist revolution, total control, unlimited power, as they sell their philosophy.
In the interest of simplifying things for people, the way that political correctness feeds their agenda is that it suppresses speech and thought.
Exactly. The philosophy tries, they try to sell this philosophy to an ignorant public by instilling this special, insidious kind of hatred for anybody who opposes their desires. And they mind rape people. They distract people by allowing them to foment their hatred, whatever little minority you want to be, LGBTQ, Black Lives Matters, feminists, enviro Nazis. They let them foment their hatred on the rest of society so that eventually people get inundated with this and they start to hate their own country, which makes them a grape on the vine ready to be picked by the Democratic revolutionaries out there, of which Mr. Obama is he's an Islamo communist revolutionary wearing an expensive designer suit. He has the White House.
And that is the meaning of useful idiot.
Exactly. Don't be a useful idiot, people. Please don't do that to yourself or your country.
So now it is time for a break, and instead of a commercial break, we have a special book of Beaker. You ready to hear that one?
I am. I was just getting heated up and ready to go. You cut me off. You're controlling me again. That's okay.
Indeed I am, because it is my job. All right. Book of Beaker from the Book of Millennials. Here we go.
A reading from the Book of Beaker, First Millennials, chapters 2, verses 14 through 37. And an angel of inanity appeared before the millennials, and spoke to them in dulcet tones, so as not to offend, in a language lacking nuance, for they in thought were not unlike cows, chewing their cud. And the angel proclaimed, "Know and understand that all are created equal in every way, as everything is fluid and relative. Identifiers such as gender, race, and sexual orientation are but contrived constructs inflicted upon us by the cis-normative patriarchal hegemony. If nature cruelly placed you in the body of a male and you wish to express yourself as a female, we will celebrate you. If you are an adult who wishes to become a child, thou shalt not be judged. If you are a woman who wishes to express themselves as a cat, you would not be the first. If you wish to shed the skin of your oppressor heritage, you will find open arms to greet you. If nature in its perfection made you a woman, and you instead wish to become a man, we understand that the transformation will leave you free of the inherent corruption that is the nature of males. Understand this," continued the angel. "Men, you are wrong, inherently and universally, most especially if you are white, and certainly if you are hetero. But your wrongness can be somewhat ameliorated if you show sufficient and overt self-loathing, sure in the knowledge that your oppressive and inherently violent nature can be somewhat muted by skinny jeans and the pronouncement that you are indeed a male feminist. Blessed be this generation, free from the shackles of stereotypes, the vanguard of perfection from the womb of Gaia. And your perfection will be maintained, as we will protect you from all dissenting views, creating a safe space for you to flourish, protected by the walls of academia, to suckle at the teeth of Marx, thus ensuring the purity of our warriors of social justice. Heretical non-groupthink will be labeled as intolerant hate speech, and will be eradicated. And so, when traveling outside the confines of your pocket of utopia, thou art free to attack the heretic in word or deed with all the vitriol you can bring to bear, and be at peace with the knowledge that in claiming the mantle of the victim, thou shalt always be protected. Failing that, stomp thy feet and cry unfair, if life has the audacity to obstruct or offend thee. For remember, child, personal accountability is just another tool of those who would oppress you. So go forth and spend outrageous sums of money of degrees of nominal use. For your kind will usher in an era where education is free, and the excrement of unicorns bears the seeds of money trees, rejoicing in the knowledge that the fight for 15 will ensure that your nonsensical educational track will bear the fruit of a living wage. And when your victory is complete, when you have in truth felt the burn, when an equality of mediocrity is established, and the fairness of equal outcomes has become unto law, know that you have done what no foreign power could hope to do through force of arms, what no revolution of the working class could ever hope to accomplish. You will have neutered a nation, as cultural Marxism has neutered you. This has been a reading from the Book of Beaker.
It's almost like Beaker knew the topic.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay.
So
are we on?
We're back. You're on. You're live.
Okay.
Surprise.
I enjoyed that Book of Beaker reading, but in the United States today, the opponents of the left, the lefties, are anybody in America who retains the ability to think rationally for themselves. This is a characteristic which the Democratic Party despises because they want to force their miserable little ideas onto every single person that they come in contact with. Nothing is more contemptible than their willingness to pander to human stupidity and pander to human emotions while they ignore basic facts and human intellect. Few Democrats have demonstrated this better than Barack Hussein Obama, who panders to stupidity and emotions in his relentless push to sell his Islamo-communist public policies, from the disaster of Obamacare to the phony Iran nuke deal. 3 of Obama's speechwriters just last week, Lou, Ben Rhodes, John Lovett, and John Favreau, were recorded during an interview with PBS, useless PBS, by the way, PBS talk show host Charlie Rose. They were recorded laughing out loud at how stupid the American people are in their explanation of how Obama was able to ram Obamacare down the throats of American citizens and members of Congress, as well as the total fraud and deception that surrounded the Iran nuke deal. The Obama toolbox, Lou, is the same for every political issue. And you're going to like this. His political allies rush out smear campaigns, accusing opponents of everything from treason to racism to sexism, whatever ism you want to choose. Mm-hmm. I looked these up, and you're going to like this. These are Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, tactics number 5, 8, and 12 that they use all the time. Mm-hmm. Then after that, his little lapdog media fills people's heads with phony polls. Don't believe polls, people. Please don't. You can do anything you want to manipulate statistics. I know. I've done it.
You know what a poll is?
What?
It's a paycheck for a pollster.
Exactly. You know what? The White House will, after this occurs, then they'll spew blatant lies that it contradicts before denying that they ever contradicted them. Letters by independent experts are then solicited without those so-called experts revealing their close ties to Mr. Obama and the White House. And Obama's foreign policy is just his domestic policy, with enemies treated like oppressed minorities. Our enemies are treated like oppressed minorities, Lou.
That's the best analysis that national security is my thing. That's the best analysis I've ever heard of his foreign policy. It's his domestic policy with our enemies treated like minorities.
Exactly. In reality, Winch, Obama's foreign policy is one long stream of miserable disasters. Mm-hmm. But the American people are expected not to acknowledge this or allow it to influence our opinions, our ideas, our thought process, as he callously promotes his next foreign policy debacle. think about this. The Iranian nuke deal followed closely on the heels of Arab Spring and on the Benghazi situation that happened there with those 4 brave Americans getting killed.
Yeah.
I argue this, forget giving the Iranians the benefit of the doubt. Why are the American people gullible enough to give Barack Hussein Obama the benefit of the doubt after a track record of miserable failures in foreign policy and in the Middle East? The reason Obama was given the benefit of the doubt on the Iran nuke deal, Lou, and so many other disastrous policies is due to his ability to carefully orchestrate a series of lies to deceive the American people and the Congress without facing any opposition whatsoever. Any opposition. And it isn't just Obama. It's virtually the entire Democratic Party that gets away with these types of shenanigans, while the American people are given no real substantive alternatives by the cowards in the GOP. Here's my final analysis, Lou. The grim reality is that dishonesty is so fundamental to the lefties today that while all politicians connive with the facts just a bit, if they think that there is no chance that they're getting caught, the pathological liars of the establishment Democratic Party more and more resemble the Stalinist writer, if you remember her, Lillian Hellman, about who Mary McCarthy wrote, "Every word that Hellman writes is a lie. Even the words and the are lies in her writing." The establishment media, like entrenched government bureaucracies and corrupt academia, long since stopped caring about intellectual integrity, Lou. All of these entities care only about either advancing an ideological agenda, think communism people, or protecting their comfortable little perks and perches. Over the last 50 years or so, and Lou will say 100 years, there has been virtually no governor or check upon these most outrageous frauds in the American political arena. The Democratic Party spews blatant lies on a daily basis, Lou. Think Obama, Mrs. Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Susan Rice, Joe Biden, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, Mark Grayson. They spew these callous lies as they concern themselves with single, concrete-bound, range-of-the-moment projects and demands without any regard to cost or consequence, Lou. And I think I'll end it right there, and maybe we can talk about something that's happened in the news lately.
Yeah, well, I know you have a news story that you want to talk about. I don't.
Well, you know what? It involves you there in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Where do you live? I don't even know where you live. You live in North Carolina, I believe.
Yeah, I'm in the Triangle.
That's what you told me.
I'm close enough to Chapel Hill. But okay. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
We talked about this earlier, but in the show, that this past week, Obama issued an illegal, unconstitutional order demanding that all schools allow so-called transgenders to use whatever bathroom or locker room that corresponds with their gender, the gender that they self-identify with on that particular day. His leverage, Lou, is blackmail, because he threatened to withhold federal money to any school that doesn't comply with his emperor's edict. Lou, Dr. A has a stunningly simple and an incredibly brilliant solution for states that do not wish to comply with Mr. Obama's unconstitutional blackmail order and that desire to protect their little girls and their little boys, for that matter, from predatory LGBTQ persons. You know what, Lou? It's the state's money to begin with. The federal government only is endowed with tax money that the states send to Washington, D.C. Here's my simple solution. States should just stop sending their tax dollars to D.C. and keep it at home in their state for use as they see fit. Money, people, is the undergirding source of power for the federal government today. It should be our founding documents, but today it's money. Take away their source of revenue, and the federal government will shrivel up to a manageable size, Lou. We can control them by taking away their source of power, which is tax money. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really true, but I think that it's like I don't even know what to compare it to. It's like an invasive vine that's growing on a tree. It's reaching, the tax system reaches into so many places with all of its tentacles. How do you cut the government off? We can't, and the people can't say, okay, we're not paying our taxes this year, and if we did, how much would it even help? Because there's all these other areas that tax revenue comes from. Sure, the states send some of it to them, but I mean, there's corporate taxes and there's regulatory taxes.
No, you're not getting what I'm telling you. The government would say, your governor there in North Carolina could tell the companies, stop sending money to the federal government. Individuals, stop sending money to the government. Companies, stop taking money from the people's paychecks for their income tax, and for their workers' compensation, all that. Stop taking it from them.
Hey, if we could pull that off, I think that would be great.
Well, it's a simple solution. And when you do that, when you said the creeping vine, I thought of the movie Jumanji, where that house had that creeping vine and was going everywhere, encompassing the house and destroying cars.
So I'm going to get the last word.
Take away what feeds them. Stop feeding them, people.
So I'm going to get the last word because you said that.
Okay.
I'm going to get the last word this week. I made a comment about needing, what we need now is Guy Fawkes, and someone who had actually read the graphic novel V for Vendetta, said, but we're not advocating an assassination plot. I said, no, I'm not advocating anything but insurrection. That is the kind of insurrection that we need for companies, governors, people to say, we're not sending you any more tax money until we have the government that we asked for. That would make our founding fathers proud, and that's our show. You can catch us on K98 Talk on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. right here on WNJC Philly, Tuesdays at 5 p.m. And you guys have a great week. We'll see you next week. Say goodbye, Doc.
Goodbye, everybody.
Wake Up America Radio on WNJC is part of the Conservative Commando Radio Network. Music for Wake Up America Radio is provided by Tennessee Jed, whose new CD, Stronger, is available on iTunes.
Wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.